Hi, how are you? It's a pleasure to having you here. We are going to start our USIL Quant Innovation Challenge 2021. And let me show you the agenda we prepared for you today. Okay, can you see this? Yes, can you see this Excel, right? Okay, so we're going to start with the panelist entry. I am going to be the moderator. My name is Juan Lillo. I am the Finance and Investment Lab, Bloomberg Lab Head in USIL. So I'm going to pass a Joy, that is Bloomberg Engagement for Universities Americas Head. And, she's going to talk us about the importance of data analysis and how they have developed more interesting um, materials for students in Bloomberg for Education. And then I'm going to introduce you to the second topic, to Anya and Kai. Anya and Kai were the mentors from London for our students in the BQL Academy. That is an initiative that we had in order to give skills to students in quantitative analysis. So some of the students that have finished the courses, Fernando, Kevin, and Jose Andres, are going to have a one-to-one conversation with Anya and Kai with some questions, and they're going to present our financial report with Bloomberg BQL. Anya and Kai as well is going to talk us very briefly about the purpose and the benefits of the BQL program. And then after the Q&As, the one-to-one questions with our students, we have the last part of our workshop where Jonathan Mahoney, Sebastian Krieger, and Ricardo Wolfrey are going to talk us about the possibilities with Bloomberg to program programming codes with Python, and a general view of what we want to do with USIL Quant Innovation Challenge. So I pass to Joy that has very interesting news to share with us. So go ahead, Joy, welcome. I believe Joy is mute.
I'm muted.
Okay.
Is that better?
Go ahead.
Thank you all for having me here today. My name is Joy Lowenworth, and I am with Bloomberg for Education. I head up our university engagement here for the Americas. And for those of you who don't know, Bloomberg for Education helps universities incorporate the Bloomberg terminal into their academic programs to better prepare students for the global job market. So universities around the world use Bloomberg and our educational programs to help bring the world of finance into the classroom, to provide you all with the same information and the same platform that are used by the leading decision makers in business, finance, and the government. And over the years, USIL has been a wonderful partner of Bloomberg's. Thousands of USIL students have participated in our programs, and we are excited to be here today. So as you all know, the world of finance is becoming more and more complicated, and so are the models that allow firms to price and trade securities. Quants are tasked with blending mathematics, finance, and computer skills effectively. Now, to do so, you obviously need to have fantastic coding skills, but you're also going to need critical thinking skills, the #1 trait desired by your future employers. So today you're going to hear a lot from others at Bloomberg about how to get and analyze data off of the terminal. But I'm going to talk for a few moments about why and how the why influences the bigger picture. So let's say, as an example, that you are working for a large global corporation. They are looking to build a factory that will be essential to your business operations. And your job is to evaluate vendors. So here are all the different ways that you could use Bloomberg to assess risk and get smart on various companies. So you can use, check out our supply chain functionality, take a look at risk from a government standpoint, geospatial risk, energy, corporate intelligence, and then the global economy as a whole. So Now, to evaluate your vendors, you're going to want to get your information strategically. So your first step is to get intelligence on your vendor options. So here are the kinds of questions that you may want to find answers to be sure that you are picking the right vendors for your company. So let's say, so let me just quickly walk around some of these questions. So you might be interested in finding out what the management and ownership structure is of the supplier, or how stable the company is from a financials perspective. You know, are they likely to default before you get your factory parts? Are there litigation issues? So for example, maybe there is a safety issue with the parts you're looking to source, and it would be really helpful for you to know if there are some lawsuits around it from other companies. In which case you would then avoid that vendor. You'd be interested in knowing the corporate structure of the company. You know, are they working with any sanctioned companies? Where are the factories located that are producing the parts for your new factory? You know, is there in a hurricane zone? Are there other issues that might prevent you from getting the parts you need in a timely fashion? And then what relationship does the supplier have with others? Customers that you might be interested in. So let's take a look at Siemens. So Siemens is an engineering and manufacturing company, a large global company. And let's say you're entertaining them as a possible vendor. So let's see how we can use the terminal to answer some of those questions. So we can take a look at our supply chain functionality. We can look at Siemens customers and suppliers, and sort through all of this information to see who is working with them, who are they choosing to work with, and how that influences their operations. We can look at the management, you know, to find out, are the board members of Siemens tied to sanctioned companies? What is the ownership structure? You know, are there cross-boarding conflicts? We could also use our maps functionality to find out, you know, if the location where this vendor is comes with shipping risk or political risk. You know, perhaps they're located in a war zone and we might not get the parts we need in time. And we can also look at our RELS functionality to find out, you know, is this company a subsidiary of or involved in another way with a sanctioned company? You know, that could be another potential issue. We can take a look at the M&A functionality to see all of the transactions that Siemens has ever been involved in. And we can also look at the legal stuff, as I mentioned earlier. We can see every court case that Siemens has been involved with by type, as well as diving in specifically to those legal briefs. So as you can see, there is a ton of ways, and that's just a very quick glance, but a ton of ways that you can use the terminal to assess corporate risk, corporate intelligence, and examine the companies for risk. And then, you know, of course, then it's your job to figure out what to do with all of this data. But it's good to know what's out there. It's good to think critically about how the different choices will then impact the bottom line of your company. And so I encourage you all to use your critical thinking skills as you are coding, and think about the big picture in the end. So thank you.
Thank you, Joy. As always, it's very interesting that Bloomberg Education have for students and professors. We appreciate a lot we having you here. And now I give the pass to Anya and Kai. So they would talk about the purpose and benefits for a BQL program and have a one-to-one session with students that have passed the BQL Academy Fixed Income and Equity. So go ahead, Kai and Anya. Nice to have you here.
Sure, of course. Sorry, my camera is not working, so unfortunately I can't have my camera on. But yeah, just I guess very briefly to introduce the BQL itself. The whole idea of the BQL Academy was to upskill the clients and of course you guys regarding the new API on the system. The BQL is basically the new API that we've created to be able to address some of the data handling and limits of clients. So it allows you to do much more and run a lot of calculations on top of the raw data within our Bloomberg cloud, which is the sort of biggest advantage of it in general. So if you watch the BQL Academy, you would notice that you can construct a lot of different formulas when instead of looking at one security, you can look at multiple. For example, list of peers, or you can define a very particular ratio, a very particular field that you want to output, and a function on top of that. So I'm not going to go super much into the details of benefits. I think Kai was about to address those, but afterwards, yeah, happy to answer the questions that you guys have.
Thank you, Anya, and thank you, Juan, for having me today. So my name is Kai, and I am focused on BQL and Quant solutions at Bloomberg. And just to follow up on what Anya just mentioned, I think she did already mention several of the benefits. She did mention about the cloud calculations, custom calculations. Also, I think I'd like to mention about the scale of what you are able to do within the single syntax. So what you're able to do is basically slice and dice massive amount of securities. So just as a perspective, in equities, we are able to access all 89,000 plus securities and screen them, aggregate them, and apply custom calculations to them. Also, the benefit in terms of this particular BQL Academy is that, of course, BQL can be quite sophisticated, as you might have already approached some of the formulas and examples. You do have to take some time to actually look at it and absorb some of the knowledge. However, what the BQL Academy course aims to do is take on a step-by-step from level 1 through level 3, so that you literally become from 0 to hero. So I think we'll go through some of the questions that the students had. We received an Excel file by Juan, noting some of the questions that you might have had, along with some of the examples that you've provided in terms of how you have implemented in your sort of classes already. So let me see. Anya, should I share my screen first, or?
Yes,
yeah,
please.
if you want to, and then I can
Yes.
share my screen afterwards as well.
Okay, sure.
At the bottom, you have share screen in green.
Yep.
So you can click here, there, and
Great. All right. So I think there are a few questions that I can address, but also some can be answered by Anya. So I guess we can go from the very top. So one of the questions that we had is how to prepare a return and price matrix stock indices for a specific date, for example. So that's a good question. Basically, what we could do, we can approach this in different ways. When you mention matrix, I believe you're looking for perhaps a column with a date, maybe a list of index or stocks, and then a particular price or return. So what we could do is we could set up a date, for example. So let's just assume that we have today. I'm just going to enlarge in this a little bit more. There we go. Let's just assume that's a date. We have a security. I believe you are using several indices. I'll just mention S&P 500, as well as one of the index that you're using. So that would be this one right here, I believe, BVL, Peru General Total Return Index. So we can have a layout like that. Now, in order to actually effectively get, let's say, the returns for these, I will always recommend having a separate cell for the actual query. And the reason being is because you can actually reuse the same type of query over and over again, but just referencing tickers in the date. So this is a little bit of a trick. I'll show you quickly how to do this. So for example, if you have ever looked through our B2O Academy, we are able to construct formulas using let get for syntax. Let is where we can define variables, get is where we can have the actual data output, and then for is going to be the universe. So we can create a variable called list, and the idea is that we're gonna be mentioning these securities right here, and we're gonna be applying that to the for section. For the let, let's just assume that we're just gonna get the total returns. So we're going to call this total shareholder return, TSR, total return field. And then we can apply a date range or a particular date. We can say, for example, if we wanted to just get, let's say, 1 year return on this particular date, we can say calc interval equals, and we can apply a function called range to have the start date. We'll call this the date minus 1y, ending on this particular date. And the request is going to be this particular TSR variable. So that's going to be the setup. We can then start applying this within the section that we have right here. So we can say bql.query, cell reference the item, the query, and then I'm going to create a variable called list. And by using a formula called bql.list, or simply just reference one single item, we can then apply that and feed it through the for clause. We can also create a variable called date. This is going to be using the converted version, BQL converted version of this particular date, which is going to feed in for the date range of the interval. And there you have it. That's going to be the total return. What you could do is obviously you can cell reference multiple items for the list. So you can drag it over, and that's going to one. Let me see. Parameter. Oh, that's the date, isn't it? bql.list. Drag it over, and then say we want to get for multiple items. That's also possible as well. But obviously, if you're trying to create a more neat table, or maybe you wanted to have something that is exactly your layout, perhaps it's better to actually cell reference one by one. So that's sort of the answer to the first question. I hope that's relatively straightforward there. There we go. We also have a question on how to extract the most traded values of S&P 500 in US dollars. Again, this is using one of the techniques called screening, because we're basically screening for the most traded security within a particular universe. And again, I would like to use a combination of let, get, and for. So here I'm going to define, in fact, I'm going to have a formula called bql.query. I'm going to be cell referencing this merged cell right here. And then I'll start typing in what I need to complete my request. As for the universe, we're looking for the S&P 500, but this time we're screening for all the members. So we're going to have to use a function called members, and then directly apply S&P 500 index. We are then going to get the value data, so most traded value. So that's basically the turnover. I'm going to say turnover equals to turnover. And just in case, although S&P 500 is only in US dollars, it's always good to unify the currency. That's just the best practice. We can then apply a group rank or a ranking. So we can say the rank of this to be the group rank of turnover. And this will basically rank all the securities for the universe in the order of highest to lowest. Finally, we can filter. And we can filter based on this particular variable called rank and call for the highest one which is going to be the smaller the number of the rank, the higher the number in terms of the traded volume. So that will be the setup that we have. And then we can just simply call for the turnover. And it should take no more than a split second to calculate and get you the return. So let's just apply something called show IDs equals true. And you'll see that Tesla right now is in fact the most traded security in terms of volume at the moment. Anya, in fact, I'll go through some of the other questions first and then maybe bring it back to you. Is that right?
Perfect. Yeah, that would be lovely.
Yeah. Great, fantastic. So the matrix for price returns of commodity futures market, I'll leave that to Anya. I'll be looking at next the 5 most traded securities in BVL. That's a good question as well. So again, this is sort of using a technique of screening, but also aggregation for the ranking. So let me concatenate again. Sorry, merge these cells first. And reference this particular cell where I'm going to type out the query. Again, here I'm going to set up the query where I will say members, first of all. Members of the, now I keep forgetting the full ticker name of that. It's quite long, isn't it? There we go. And then we can have the most traded securities. So we can say in terms of turnover, but we can also say in terms of the number of shares. So let's try number of shares this time. So I'm going to call this volume. And the volume is going to be using a field called PX volume. And that's going to be the field. And then we can also create a rank for this. And for this, we are going to rank volume. We are then able to use this rank again, filter, and as a predicate of the filter function, I'm going to apply the rank and call for the top 5, just like that. I'm finally going to get the volume, but I'm going to finally group sort this. So sort this in the order of the ranking, for example. And there we have it. We have these 5 securities, which are the most traded in terms of number of shares today. And here are the values sorted in the order of higher to lower. So that will be the answer to the 5th question. In terms of the final question, the other questions will be answered by Anya. The final question on how to prepare a template and automate a company's valuation. So we're looking at multiples. Now, one of the things I realized in one of the examples that you provided, I see that there's a question on the NA values that we are getting for some of these securities. Now, the most likely reason why you'll get an NA for a field like P ratio is because if the denominator is negative, so negative earnings, for example. So a very quick way to check this is we can go onto the terminal and type ATA COB C1 equity, for example. And then we can quickly go to, let's just say, the FA page. And we can see that for the trailing 12-month period, this particular security had negative earnings. So when there's negative earnings, we do not calculate the multiple. So that's a good thing to note. Now, in order to do such, let's say, matrix for various multiples, again, I would do the same thing where I will create a section where I would have a list of multiples that I would like to pull. So let's just format this in a similar way. Now, first of all, let's request, for example, the P ratio. So PE ratio. maybe I am interested in the PB ratio as well, so price to book ratio. And I might also be interested in EV to EBITDA. So let's just say EV EBITDA as the field name. And this is all going to be trailing 12 month. Things about fundamental data fields or any fields which include a fundamental component, like all these multiples, is that they will be looking at trailing 12 month in terms of their data. So we can then get these securities for various universe. Maybe we can use these top securities traded. So what we could do is, again, we can define a list, and within here, within the query, we can say BQL.list reference these tickers, and then we can then finally request for these variables that we have just defined. So now you can see that obviously these have negative earnings, so they won't have any values, but it's a nice way to get actually a table with a header, which has your own custom inputs or definitions that you've applied. So again, I would highly recommend using Bcodo Query because it's a lot more customizable when it comes to building more sophisticated spreadsheets. I hope that was relatively clear. I'll also take it on and pass it on to Anya, who can answer the other questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kai. Let me share my Excel in that case. So those are the securities we're going to be working with. So the first question that was omitted so far was the preparing the matrix of prices and returns of commodities in the futures market. So I've just taken these two securities for the oil, but you can of course change that. And so if we're just going to look at those two securities, we can do a very similar thing that Kai has done if you want to do with the foreign let and the BQL .list. But if you want to stick to the simplest syntax, that's fine as well, because those queries are not as complicated as the one that Kai was showing. So if I just run the simple BQL query on this, we can actually select the securities we want to pull the data for. So I can simply do that. And then after the comma, introduce what fields I want to pull. And the reason for this working here is that there is no text. This is just a self-referencing within the function. So that works. If I somehow put in the quotation marks here, stop working, which is what I'm going to touch upon in a moment regarding the self-referencing within the quotation marks. Anyway, so if we want to pull the price, very simply within the second quotation mark, we can specify what we want to pull. And in that case, you can of course pull the PX last. And within the brackets, you can specify the date that you want to pull the PX last for. So you can type here date equals, and let's say 2021 03 22nd. So if I just pull that, and by hitting enter, I'm just going to get the prices for both securities. Now, if I go back to the code, I can actually expand on this. So I can now potentially say, how about I'm going to also put the percentage change. So after the comma, I can add the PCT underscore CHD for the percentage change. And then within the brackets, we can define what we want to calculate a percentage change on, i.e. here the return. So we can add the PX last because that's the field we're calculating this on. And within the brackets, we can specify the dates we want to pull this for. In that case, I'm going to be looking at the range, let's say -1 week, 0 days. Now, the important thing here is that sometimes there isn't a price last week, or sometimes there isn't a price today. So a very good thing here is after the comma within the PX last, specify that if it's not available, you want to fill that empty price with the previous value or the next value, so I can add the override for fill equals pref. Now, what can happen if I execute that is we can have some additional columns flying around, and the reason for it is because the BQL, although it's being more, so allowing you for more things, is also being a little bit more complex. So every single data item in here, the PX last, is going to store its own underlying metadata. And sometimes this can come sort of in trouble, and you would know that from watching the BQL Academy again, that sometimes we need to specify which underlying data we want to actually be referring to. So I just hit enter here. What you'll notice is that I'm getting this column and this column, dates column that I didn't want, which is precisely what I was referring to of the underlying metadata. So if I go back to the code, I can specify that for the price that particular day, I just want to look at the value, and I can do that using the dot value function. And then the percentage change, I also just want to be looking at the value. No date, no currency, nothing like that, just the value of those two. And if I hit that, we should get the data. Now it seems like the percentage change here doesn't actually give us anything, and there may be a couple of reasons for it, but as Kai has said, you may go and check on the system. In fact, if we actually have those securities quoting for the last couple of days. So this will be the general approach for how to address those sort of queries. I can just try one thing here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it will be the pricing issue. Anyway, that would be the part. Securities will be the best idea. You can also have a look at potentially pulling that within the BQL.query, as Kai has done, and just self-referencing it afterwards. So the second question was regarding to the price on the currency, USD in that case. And just 1 second. Pulling the prices for that Euro USD currency. Again, if we do the BQL code, and then I just select the Euro US currency, and I open the PX last. I can specify the date that I have the picture, and here I can say a particular date, let's say 2021-03-22. And if I hit that, I'm going to get the data. You don't have to do it. You can do it for a range of the date. So in that case, you can add the range and then specify that we want to be looking at dates between two particular dates. For example, like this. And then we're going to get the list. Now, what I want to sort of address regarding this point is self-referencing. So again, as you see here, I can easily self-reference because there's no text within my self-referencing. However, imagine that we wanted to self-reference the date. So let's say that we want to have those dates dynamically selected from the cells. I can actually, if I just Control X this or cut this, and I try to self-reference the cell, you see that it's not shining blue. So it's not actually an active self-reference. The reason for this is that when you're looking at an Excel function and you want to self-reference anything, you need to self-reference outside of text, because up until here, we're indicating that we start in text. The PX last dates range just as text. And then the C7 is just treated as text. So if we want to exit from this text mode, we need to finish off our quotation mark. So this is now the text. And then I am indicating that I want to concatenate this text. And you can use the word concat, or you can use the @ sign. And you can see now the cell starts shining in a particular color. So this indicates the cell is now self-referenced, and if I want to self-reference, or if I want to concatenate this now with the rest, I'm using the and sign again, and of course here I'm having the quotation mark. So I need to open this quotation mark again so that the code understands that this whole thing is now a text. So if I now go ahead and select 2021-03-22, this actually won't work. And the reason why is that this works for text. So if I wanted to self-reference the currency, that could work. Or if I wanted to self-reference the country of risk, that would work. However, here for the date, we need to use additional function of the BQL.date. And in that case, if I apply this BQL.date and then self-reference, hit enter, then this will pull me the data. So you've seen here the BQL .date, and then earlier Kai has also shown you the BQL.list. All right, so I think those are all the questions that have been listed here. Yep, that's right. So unless anyone has any questions that you want to ask live, then I would pass it back to Juan.
Thank you very much, Anya, for those insightful examples. So now we continue with our schedule, and I'm going to pass to Jonathan, Sebastian Krieger, and Ricardo Wolfried that they are going to talk about the purpose, benefits, and the workflow of the new USIL Quant Innovation Challenge for 2021. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Juan. First, we'd like to say it's a pleasure to be here and to be part of this project. Just to introduce ourselves, we work at the global data team in Bloomberg. So we are responsible for getting data, treating it, analyzing the data that we have, and we use a lot of Python and data together. So that's kind of the idea that we want to pass to you guys. We want to show a little bit of how our world works and give you guys some knowledge and show some use cases where that can actually be applied in the market. So I'm gonna pass the word to Ricardo to talk about that a little bit, and in the end, Sebastian is gonna show how it's gonna work and a little bit of our schedule as well. You're muted, Ricardo. Nope. Juan, can you unmute Ricardo? I'm not sure. Apparently he can't unmute himself.
Hello? Can you hear me? Great, great. Thank you everybody. Nice to meet you. I'm Ricardo. I'm part of the Bloomberg equity team. Yeah, I'd like to affirm, based on what my colleagues just showed you, that what we will be seeing on this training is a trend and is something that the investors are already doing in order to find investment opportunities nowadays. During our clients' visits, we show them the same things that we are showing to you and we'll be showing to you on these next weeks. And you know, we are talking about some possibilities to analyze a big amount of data. With this training is expected to give you some tools in order to create a screening, create a strategy and a reasoning to analyze and look for insights, considering a universe of many companies. So again, with this kind of analysis is what we do and what we are seeing the investors doing on their routine. And with Quant, we can look for trends, we can look for sector movements, and we are not talk only about a company level, you know, we are talking about a big amount of data. Again, we are talking about trend, we are talking about a sector movement that is very hard to identify if we look only on a company level. So yeah, we are very excited. Thanks for the opportunity. And from now on, Sebastian is gonna tell us about the next steps. So thanks, go ahead, Sebastian.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you, Juan. And I want to share the idea for the challenge that the participants will solve. And I hope you can see my screen. So the Quant challenge. Now that we will extend on your BQL knowledge and start introducing some other tools. In this challenge, our objective is for you to have more experience using modern data analysis tools, like for instance, Python and Pandas. You might have heard of it. There's also R, and there are also other solutions, but we will focus in Python. And we have divided this challenge in two parts. The first part, you will apply all the BQL you already know using Excel. And then we will start to introduce Python programming to you. And in the second part, we will have selected teams that will extend the challenge and solve a problem in 5 days. So by the end, we expect that all the teams, they develop their solutions using Quant, which is a Python environment integrated within the Bloomberg ecosystem. Some more details about the challenge. So in phase 1, you will retrieve data that Ricardo mentioned. You will construct an Excel spreadsheet using BQL, and then save it and start exploring all this data with the tools that Python provides. We will have weekly 90-minute lectures during 4 weeks, and we will also have some reading assignments and or exercises for each lecture. And it will start like this. In week 1, you will review the BQL and you'll get introduced to the challenge we propose. And then we will start running, you will start actually using Python and Pandas and inside Jupyter Notebook environment, which is quite specific. Some of you might already have heard about it. Then in lecture 3, we will further extend with exploratory data analysis using Pandas. And in lecture 4, it's your turn to extend all that we've shown in the 3 previous lectures and present some independent analysis or scenarios you're interested in. During phase 2, selected teams will have 5 days to further polish their solution. You will still use Python and BQL to showcase some analysis. And in the end, you will present your solutions during a roundtable. So in day 1, we will give a brief introduction on how to use Quant and BQL. We will have some mentoring sessions in days 2 and days 3. Days 4, in day 4, the teams will work on their solutions, and in day 5, teams will share their notebook. Oh, I've missed an N. Sorry about that. And submit a video pitch explaining their solution and the big challenges they faced. And it should be up to 3 minutes long. And the final roundtable will be a chance to showcase your solutions with invited guests, and also where we have the screening of the videos you submitted. And this is pretty much the format. If you have any questions, I will be pleased to answer.
Thank you, global team data from Bloomberg. We are going to send you an invitation by the USIL network for our students. This is an exclusive challenge for our students. So I want to pass to 3 of the students that are in the team of the Quant Academy from Phila. So please, Kevin, Jose Andres, and Fernando, you can give us some words in order to close this workshop. Go ahead.
Hello, Professor Lillo. Nice to meet you, to all our panelists. And well, I'm very happy to be here for the invitation. And I just want to say thank you to Anya and Kai for answering our questions regarding the report. Well, my experience during the course, it was really, we learned a lot, and I talk we because we are a club with more than 100 members, and some of our members have taken this course. And thanks to this, the BQL, both fixed income and equity both help us to improve our report. So I'm very happy, and I hope to continue learning from Bloomberg.
Okay, hello. Okay, teacher, thank you. I want to thanks to Kai and Anya because in their presentation I learned a lot. When I worked with the file that we sent you, the Excel file, we had a lot of questions, and we tried to put those questions in those that you answer us. I'm personally, I'm so happy, and I think that I learned a lot. And with the the challenge that Sebastian, Jonathan, and Ricardo show us, I will be so happy to participate on it if I have the possibility. And I think that Bloomberg gives us a lot of tools to learn, a lot of tools to apply in our days, because we are a club of finance. So just thank you to everybody, and we are so happy to be here and learn more and more each day. Thank you.
Okay, Fernando, the last words, please.
Yes, thank you, Professor Leo. Yes, we were very pleasant to work in this team with Kevin and Jose. We worked in the fill-up report. We could automatize many processes with the BQL, and all the conference with BQL session were very successful, and we learned a lot with that. And we very appreciate that, the session, that conference, and this opportunity.
Okay, so now
I just say thank you very
For
much.
all the feedback.
yes,
Sorry,
go
Quant,
ahead.
I just want to say thanks for all the feedback. That's really nice. Glad that you guys found it useful.
And that is the same for me. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope all of you have some time and get to know BQ a lot more, and get to know Bloomberg and finance in general a lot more. And I'm sure the future is bright for all of you. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's really great. So I just want to finish with this. Are you seeing this certificate? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, can you see? Well, there is professors, there are more than 15 professors that also take the course, 20 students. So we have professors and students that have knowledge about the VQL, and we're going to promote this. And the students that have passed the 3 levels are going to participate in the Quant challenge, so they have prior knowledge. And I'm very happy to close this workshop and see you very soon in the Quant Innovation Challenge from USIL. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Very much.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.